Hey, what's up, Pop-Up Camper family? Welcome back to It's Poppin'. So today we're gonna go over a topic kind of near and dear to me. I kind of geek out, I nerd out about this stuff, and that is emergency preparedness kits. And of course, specifically, it's gonna be for your pop-up camper. Now, keep in mind, and I'm sure most of you have some sort of emergency or roadside kit for your vehicle. We have that too, but we also supplement that with a lot of pop-up camper specific items that you might find you need when either you're towing your pop-up or you're at the campsite and you find that something has broken once you get there. So essentially, this is going to be really an all-encompassing kit, but I will break it down into some categories so it's a little bit easier to follow along, perhaps a little bit easier for you to supplement that part of your kit if you find yourself lacking. But like I said, I'll break it down into categories, but this stuff kind of does flow between vehicle preparedness, pop-up camper preparedness. So all I want to encourage you to do is to keep in mind where you store these items. Is it appropriate to just have it, in your vehicle? So perhaps when you're not even pulling your pop-up, you have it for your vehicle. Or is it something that you can store in the pop-up, not taking up space in your vehicle? That way, it's in there when you need it, when you're pulling your pop-up. So just something I encourage you, but without further ado, let's jump into this pop-up camper emergency preparedness kit. So first things first, we have kind of our general toolkit. We keep this within our car because, like I said before, it can flow between car repairs, pop-up camper repairs when you're at the campsite, roadside, etc., etc. So there's actually quite a bit of stuff in here. So without too much talking, I will just show you everything. Although I will say I did throw some safety glasses after this happened a few months ago. So safety glasses, gloves, of course, to keep your hands from getting dirty. We do have some of these cool little like pop-up lanterns for any nighttime repairs. But like I said, real quick, jumper cables, cable ties, a fuel siphon actually. Hopefully we don't ever need to use that. Hex wrench set. We have a myriad of different pliers and wire cutters. So of course those are always good for wrenching on stuff. Screwdrivers, crescent wrenches. What's in here? Let's see. Oh, just like a little driver set. And other than that, just a hammer, and I think that's it. Oh, and some pry bars. So pretty much everything in your basic kits, and I just saw a nice utility knife. So that's all of our kind of general tools. But in addition to that, and this is super handy to have, is just like a basic socket set with some additional drivers. So, like I said, very handy to have all that. You guys will come up with whatever you want in your own general toolkit, but that's very nice to have, and it's kind of a basis for our emergency kit. All right, so next up is our tire blowout kit. Now, as you guys know, and I'm sure you've heard stories if it hasn't happened to you, tire blowouts just seem to happen randomly and without explanation sometimes. So definitely important to have a tire repair slash replacement kit. So first things first, you need a means of lifting up whatever tire is blown out or damaged. So we have a few options for you. First and foremost, this is kind of cool, and this is called a quick change tire jack. And important to note, this will not work on torsion axles, but it'll work on pretty much any other axle. And essentially all you do is, and hopefully I have this oriented correctly, but you put this so it interacts with your axle right here. And then actually I think it's probably this way. Yeah, maybe not. So then you drive forward and then it just lifts the entire axle up, which is kind of neat. And that way you don't need to carry around something like a bottle jack. Although this is really nice, this one in particular lifts up to 4 tons, but the surface area on it isn't as big and can be a little bit more finicky. Now, barring either of those solutions, perhaps your vehicle has some sort of, jack that's hidden somewhere, but just make sure you have something somewhere so you're able to get that tire up and off the ground. Now, let's talk about getting lug nuts off. Once again, your vehicle may have some sort of lug nut wrench, but, and this is the case for us, our lug nuts on our vehicle are not the same for our pop-up. So make sure you check, pre-plan, and make sure you have something that takes off both your vehicle's lug nuts as well as your pop-up. So a few options, and I'm sure you've all seen, you know, your traditional tire iron. I like to throw electrical tape on, denoting which one's which. So I have red for the pop-up and black here for our tow vehicle. Same thing on this nice collapsible model. It's just a bit smaller of a footprint, but works just as well. And then finally, we have the lug nut wrench that came with our pop-up. So that way we know we have one for our pop-up, and then of course one that's for our tow vehicle. These ones can just stay home because they're a little bit bigger. So that's lug nuts. Now, if you don't have that bad of a blowout, if like your tire isn't completely decimated, it's not a bad idea to have a simple tire repair kit, which can be handy for, you know, repairing just basic nail holes, things of that nature. And then you can use that in conjunction with some sort of 12-volt air compressor to get that tire filled back up. But I would say even more important than having a tire repair kit and inflation device is having a spare that you know is a good spare that is properly inflated before you leave. So with all that being said, that's everything in our emergency tire repair kit. So moving right along, let's talk canvas, vinyl, screen, awning, whatever you might have that could develop a rip or hole in it. We have a repair solution for you. So like, let's say you went camping, maybe put down your camper for a week or two, are pulling your pop-up to your next campsite, get it all opened up, and you find out a mouse got in and perhaps chewed a hole through your vinyl roof or maybe even your screen. Well, this will hopefully save the day and not ruin your trip. So once again, keep in mind, not everybody has the same canvas or vinyl or tenting material. So tailor this to your needs, but we have a hybrid. So for example, canvas repairs. We have both, I think, a nylon and more of a fabric canvas type repairs. I can't remember if these are the stick-on or iron-on, but we have a myriad of different colors and patches. So even if it doesn't look great, at least you don't have a hole in the side of your canvas. Now, what about nylon? I would throw this on the vinyl. These nylon stick-on patches are really nice for that. So, for example, we've used this in the past. A nice stick-on white nylon is great for repairing that in a jiffy. What about just like a tiny little hole, like just a tiny little pinprick of a hole that maybe some water's coming in? This is a vinyl fabric and plastic adhesive, which is really nice for those small holes where you don't need a full patch. Of course, many of you might have the plastic windows, and if those get a tear in them, this crystal clear Gorilla Tape can work in a quick pinch. Otherwise, there's this stuff called Tear-Aid. It's a little bit more expensive, but this is actually super sticky and works quite well. But that's great for the clear plastic window repairs. But you know what? This can work on vinyl too, so in a pinch. What about, like, let's say if you have a white awning bag. White duct tape works really good in a pinch. Normal duct tape for normal duct tape needs. And I want to say this is actually awning repair tape in and of itself, but it's kind of yelled it out, so not, I don't know, maybe not the best, but once again, in a pinch. And then finally, we actually have some of this adhesive tape that goes on screen. So once again, if you get a hole in your screen, you can actually kind of cut that out so it looks nice. Pop some of this on either side, and well, your screen is almost as good as new. So like I said, canvas, vinyl, awnings, whatever, if it gets a hole in it, some of this small stuff is pretty nice to have around. So that's our repair kit for that. So next up is our electrical repair kit, and honestly, this could probably be one of the most handy repair kits you can have in your whole system. First and foremost is this simple voltmeter, ammeter This is super handy for not only troubleshooting any electronic components you might have, but also, you know, testing your battery, things of that nature. So highly recommend something like this in your kit. Now, and this has happened to us before, and I'm pretty sure it was our propane alarm, you know, propane detector. One of the wires came loose. So it's really handy to have, you know, some sort of wire cutters, wire stripper, in conjunction with various connection methods. Like in an emergency, you know, maybe not the best, but just some sort of wire nuts. We have some like butt end connectors, just basic connectors that might get you by while you're out and about until you can get back home and repair it. But in addition to that, we of course in our whole electrical kit, electrical tape, very important. Fuses, this is a big one. Now, a lot of you know we like to tape these fuses just kind of to the inside of our converter box, so we have spares there, but it never hurts to have some extra spares, right? And then finally, we just have a myriad of different lights that we've collected over the years. So these are all LED lights, so, you know, normally LEDs last quite a while, but just in case one burns out, we have the appropriate light for whatever fixture. So that is our whole electrical repair kit in a nutshell. All right, so next up is our water repair / plumbing repair kit, if you will. As you can see, just 3 items. But I could imagine where if you have a leak coming out of perhaps one of your PEX tubes, that would put a pretty big damper in your camping trip. So this is where some of this self-fusing silicone tape would come in really handy, or at least until you can repair the tube itself. I could also envision, for example, springing a leak in your water holding tank. And this is actually probably one of the only flex tape or flex seal products that we might keep. And this would, once again, just an emergency, slap it on the tank. That way the trip isn't ruined. And then finally, we just have some pipe thread tape. You know, you might run across a scenario where something's leaking and this might shore up a leak. So really simple water / I don't know, leak repair kit, if you will. Just 3 items, and these, along with all of our other pop-up camper specific things, just go in this tool bag. So like the electrical repair stuff, any of our tire repair stuff, all goes in this bag, and that goes in the pop-up. This does not stay in our tow vehicle. And finally, we kind of have just some miscellaneous items that don't fit into categories very well, but are also either really important to have or just nice to have. First and foremost, we have an extra fire extinguisher in our tow vehicle. I know a lot of you might have an extra or a fire extinguisher just inside the door of your pop-up, but how accessible is that really? So we have an extra one there. Next up, a first aid kit. Build your own first aid kit, put whatever you think you need in there, but as we talked about when I got my nice little scar here, a first aid kit is very nice to have when you're out and about, especially when you're working on your pop-ups, right? This is actually this is an emergency tarp or emergency survival blanket, as you can tell. But we keep this in our tow vehicle. That way, if we want to keep the back end from getting too dirty for whatever reason, it's nice to have. But this also doubles as a tarp for our pop-up. So if we ever get a major leak, let's say in the roof or the canvas for one reason or another, let's say like a tree branch falls through it and it's raining, something like this in conjunction with some bungee cords would be very nice to have. All right, so this is something I encourage everyone to try and do, and that is pick up a complete extra set or secondary set of keys for your pop-up camper. We have a key for our roof class locks, our front storage box, all the doors, and even the tongue lock. So if we forgot these keys or if we accidentally locked them in our pop-up, I don't know exactly how we'd manage that, but let's say we lost them, right? These would be really nice to have if we lost or somehow didn't have our primary set of keys. So definitely pick up a second set of keys. Now, going along with nice to have things that you might want secondaries of, that would be your roof lifting device, whatever that may be, if it's a square tube or one of these cylindrical tube ones with a notch out. perhaps consider picking up a spare one of these. I've seen multiple stories of where people, you know, accidentally set this on the roof of their pop-up, drive away, and then it's nowhere to be seen. So consider a second one of these, and or the your stabilizer jack crank down arms. Very nice to have two of. And then finally, we don't throw these in our kit, but I just wanted to mention it just in case some of you thought it was a good idea. But that is, you know, a spare WD, you know, general purpose lubricant and silicone spray. Both of these very nice to have for, you know, maintenance on the pop-up. Let's say something is sticking, for example, like your bed slide rails or even your roof lift arms. Very nice to have some silicone spray. So something to consider. So with all of that being said and all of that stuff, if there's anything that you guys have in your tow vehicle's emergency kit or your pop-up camper's emergency kit or what have you that we may have forgotten that you think is a great idea, please let us know in the comments. We'd be more than happy to incorporate that in our own, and I'm sure everybody else watching would appreciate it too. So hopefully we gave you guys some ideas about where you might be lacking in your emergency preparedness kits. Like I said at the beginning, this is kind of what I geek out about, and it's fun to get these kits set up. So with all that being said, guys, hopefully we see you in the next video. If not, hopefully we see you out there camping.